Alright guys, this is how to make a spread. Take one. I'm not sure if I'm going to need multiple takes on this one. I am currently at home with my parents and they like to interrupt me. So hopefully I'll be able to get through this whole thing without having to stop. And I will also like to have a disclaimer that this is the first time I've tried to do an entire spread in one go. So I'm a little out of practice here, so bear with me if I have to correct myself. What you're seeing on the screen right now is an empty spread template. So I will be working with you guys this year and walking you guys through how to do this, but you guys will have access to basically this file, and you'll be able to use it to lay out all your spreads. The point here is consistencies. You do not ever want to have a spread that's not on the right size paper or using the wrong grid size, because when we go in to make adjustments at the final minute, it means that we catch that mistake, and then all of a sudden we are working really hard and for a long time to try to get all of your pictures and everything into the right grid mode. So you see the grids on the screen right now. Hopefully you know the vocabulary. You can know what that means. We can use the W key to toggle. I'm clicked in here. We get to toggle between seeing a printed view and a grid view. Now, even though those blue markings are there in print mode, they get taken away when we give them to the print company. So you want them there because that's our color information, and that's how they determine that this page is going to be a color page and not a black and white page. You'll also notice some of our information at the top. That's like our job code and everything. So we need all that information every single time we make a spread. At the very bottom, you'll notice that the folio is already here. So once we decide what our folios are going to look like for the year, they will be there for you guys at all times in the correct spot, because that is also a huge issue when we have to correct everybody's folios, and also if they're not in the right position, it starts to look really funky when you flip through yearbooks. If you ever want to see an example of this, you can go to the surrounded yearbook and you'll notice that the folios vary from page to page. So that's our folio. To access the folio, you go to Pages in the top right hand corner and you find this master spread. So we actually just double click in here and this gets us inside. For some reason, this is harder for some people than others. I've had students sit here and double click for hours and not be able to get in. It's a very quick double click and it gets us right into the master page, and this will edit your folios. You'll notice when you're in here in your actual pages, you cannot touch these. It will not let you, no matter how many times you try, to edit your folios, and that's a good thing. You don't want to accidentally move them around. So in here, if you were changing, let's say you're doing the swim spread, over here you would say swim team. On the left-hand side, you would put athletics. If it has more than one section, you would add all the sections. If it's not a sport, you want to be as specific as you can as to what's on the page. So the right-hand side is generally the topic. The left-hand side is generally what section it would fall under. That may change depending on the theme for the year. Sometimes people do like quotes over here with like little student faces. I don't know what we're going to decide yet. So for now, this is generally what we do. All right, so I'm going to double click back into my actual pages. So I'm here. If you ever get into your InDesign screen and it's not situated correctly, you're going to go to Window, Workspace, and we should be in Essentials. We want to go ahead and reset Essentials. It's pretty common that people are in here moving around doing stuff and they end up taking away some of your menus, and you want those back. So if that happens, that's how you fix that. I'm going to try to give you guys a bunch of tips today. I would say that keeping some notes on this will help you. All right, so one of the things that is really helpful for me here is I like to be able to zoom in and out at will without having to go in and actually zoom in and out. This helps you especially when you're working on something like a specific photo and you don't want to have to change tools to over here to be able to see closer or to get bigger. So the Command minus button and the Command plus sign button will allow you to zoom in and out respectively. Okay, so we're going to get started here. You guys should have all gotten a folder by now. I should have shared that with you. And that folder will give you access to all the files we should need for this assignment. The first thing that we need to do is look at our grid. we're going to lay our dominant image first. I'm going to get us through a couple of these, and then I'll stop and get another video together, so if I mess up, I don't have to do 8,000 of these. Our dominant image is our largest image on the page. You should have learned that from the vocabulary. This is the anchor for our spread. Looking through my photography, I identified a horizontal image that I wanted to use as my dominant. So when I did that, I kind of basically decided that I needed to start with a dominant that's horizontal. When you're laying your dominant, it needs to cross over a half a page marker, so it needs to be bigger than a half a page, a half of a single page. So I'm going to go ahead and lay this now, and you're going to want to try to follow along on your own screens. So on your left-hand side here, we have a series of tools. I'm choosing this tool, my rectangle frame tool, to lay my image. I know I want to leave a caption size of 4 grid boxes. Something that's really kind of annoying in your book is that you have to keep your captions a consistent width for each element. So for our main coverage, I decided to do 4 grid boxes wide. They can be longer than that. They don't have to be consistently the same length, but they do have to be consistently the same width. So for our main feature copy, I chose 4 boxes. So I'm going to go ahead and start here because I do want to bleed the image. So I'm going to my bleed mark, and I'm going to go across that gutter line. So I'm getting really far over, and I'm going to go over, let's see, 5, 6 grid boxes from that gutter line. And I'm going to go down 14, just a little harder to count. Say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Oh my gosh, am I here? Nice. All right. So that would be my my dominant. So you can see that this space here, this is big enough that it definitely is bigger than just 1/2 these pages. I'm bleeding it off the top because I generally do bleed my dominant one way or another. You don't always have to. It's just something that is kind of stylistic. When I drew this out, it wasn't exact. I can tell by looking here. There's a little bit of a blur around this turquoise line, and I want it to be exact. So I'm actually going to go ahead and drag this and snap it to that grid line so it's perfect. Remember, these little in-between spaces are our measurement for in between each photo. So it's really important that we're keeping that all very, very consistent. Even here, we can kind of see, not too far, that it's not exactly on the line. So I want to make sure I'm exactly on the line. It should almost disappear when you are correct, and I'm ready to go. All right, so I'm going to Command minus to get myself out, and I've got my dominant image. For my dominant image to be inserted, to actually insert my photo, there's a shortcut called Command D. So if you hold down the Command key on your keyboard and the letter D, it'll bring up a menu. So you guys should have gotten 3 folders in your example spread folder. One was photography. I want to find, let's see, I probably should have written these down. It wasn't that one, it wasn't that one, it wasn't that one. Was it that one? This one. All right, so I liked this one specifically because it's very hard to tell on your screens. He just looks like he's really thinking about the game, and I liked how the cheerleaders were in the background. Normally we do an action shot in here, but we didn't actually have any action shots yet, so we're using this guy. It's a good picture. Good job, Caitlin. And I'm opening that, and it's inside my spread. Now, you'll notice, first of all, that you have 2 boxes. You have a blue box and an orange box, depending on where you click inside each of these rectangles. So our blue box indicates the actual frame itself that holds the image, and then if you click the circle in the center just one time, it'll light up orange, and that's our actual image itself. So I can easily, holding down the shift key, drag from this corner.
What are you talking?
I'm doing a screen recording, Dad. All right. Thanks. I told you they were going to do that. All right, so I can pull that in here. It's going to maintain my proportions if I held the shift key. Guys, can you please be quiet? Thank you. It's just going to take a few minutes. Okay. So if I hold on the shift key and I drag that corner in, it's going to maintain my proportions. If you do not hold on the shift key, you will get people that look funny. So, like, look at this. Look how easy it was for me to do that. It happens all the time. So another quick tip is to hold down Command and Z, and that will undo the last action you did, and you can actually do that a couple times. Another way to solve this is to click the frame itself again, and in your top right hand corner you should have these like little menus, and one says to fill the frame proportionally. So that will actually get you the best fit you can for the frame you created. If you are cutting people's faces and arms and bodies out of the image, you really want to make sure that you are changing that shape of that actual frame. You can't just squeeze people in to get them to fit, because you're going to change their proportions and they're going to look really silly. We obviously want to make a professional book here, and nothing that looks like it's like in a funhouse mirror. All right, so I've got my dominant image laid. I might want to make it bigger. I might want to make it smaller based off of what I need. If I wanted to make it a little bit larger and move it around, I could. I'm not going to, because I don't want my cheerleader to get cut off. So I've got that in here. I can hit W again and get my grids back, and I can go ahead and start laying more image boxes. So before we get started here, I want you guys to pay attention to this thing called an eye line. And essentially an eye line is a very invisible thing. I'm just going to turn it blue so we can see it. You guys can do this. I encourage you guys to work with the eye line so you can kind of see as we go along what this actually is. Essentially, you shouldn't cross this. It's where we're going to have the majority of our stuff kind of fall underneath or over it, but you shouldn't really be crossing it. So the rest of our images and text will go underneath this line. I wouldn't lay an image right now like this, because that would cross my eye line. So I'm going to go ahead and lay the rest of my images into my document. The next image I'm going to lay, I want to lay it the opposite direction that I just laid my first one. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to draw a shape that is vertical instead of horizontal. And I'm going to make it, how many is that, 7, 8, let's bring it down 9. How many boxes am I at? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Boom. Okay. Got my box in there. It's about 9 long, and I'm just using the exterior of my image here and my space I have before my gutter here. Remember that anything that falls in that gutter space is going to be cut off, so it never can be anything significant. So I'm not going to actually plan to stick something there all the time. Sometimes you might have things cross it, but in this instance, since I already have a picture right above it crossing it, I'm just going to ignore that space. I'm also leaving space down here for me to have a caption, and I'm moving on to my next one. So the next one I'm going to start right here, right on the other side of that gutter, and I'm going to lay a box that's 7, that's 9, and 8, 7, and it's going to be 7 across. So this one's actually going to be a perfect square. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, and then I'm going to make a box underneath it that's a little bit smaller because I want it to go all the way to this pink line. Now your margins are really important here. We're going to try to do the best we can to stay inside of them at all times. The only time that we don't do that is when we're bleeding an element. So another quick trick here, if you find the Alt key, it's also the Option key on your keyboard, you're going to hold it down and hold and click and drag the image you just made, and it creates a duplicate copy. So it's the Alt key on your keyboard, and that will create an exact copy. Now this is longer than I wanted because it's below this pink line, but it is the same width I wanted. So I just make a tiny adjustment here, and that's a little bit easier than me having to make a whole other box. So I made my box, and now I'm going to make another box here in this corner, and this one's going to be 5 grid boxes long, and I'm going to bring it all the way to the edge here, and that leaves space for another image. And I'm going to do one more image. I'm going to do one right here. That's 5 tall. Right in those margins, and I'm good. All right, so I have all my image space ready. I'm purposely aligning like leftover space around my images because I need it for my captions. So I'm going to go ahead and put my images in at this point. This one's going to be Jordan cheering, not that one. I did. Oh, where is she again? There she is. All right, so I chose this picture. I just thought she looked super excited. And I put it here. All right, obviously way too big for the space. So I'm going to go back up to this box and I'm going to fill frame proportionally. You also have a menu if you hold down Control or the right click an image with a ton of options, and you'll get better and better at using these. But one of them is also to fill frame proportionally from this menu, so whatever you prefer. All right, even though I filled the frame proportionally, it's still definitely not in the right spot. So I'm very carefully going to drag this over. I really want her to fill this frame up as much as possible. So I'm going to get her as big as I can, holding down that shift key without cutting off her limbs. So I don't want her arms cut off. Actually, I'll measure over just a tiny bit. So here. All right. So she's good. She's in. She looks perfect. And I'm going to go ahead and fill the rest in. So hitting my next box, holding down the Command key and D key. That's going to bring out my menu again for putting them in. And I'm going to find the picture of Brendan. All right, so great sweaty picture post a play or the game. Gonna fill the frame, move him over. And once again, I just want him a little bit bigger. So we can do that by just holding down that shift key, moving it around until I feel like he's in a good place. No, I just realized a really bad thing I did. Oh, we'll go over that rule another time. All right, so then he's in here. Okay, so here's the rule I just realized I missed. You're never supposed to have your like main photos or your photos at all facing off the page. And right here we have him looking off the page. So that's a bad thing to do. So actually what I would probably do if I was to do this again is to flip the entire design of the spread, which takes a little bit of work, so I'm not going to do it right now. But just know that we're never supposed to have eyes looking off the page. And I was doing a really good job everywhere else, but you're gonna catch me there. So like Jordan is looking kind of into the page, Brendan's looking into the page. We're seeing a lot of like the eye lines pushing us back into the spread to look at it more. But with him, we're not. So that's my bad. All right. Next one is gonna be the one underneath Brendan. This guy. All right. So my angle I decided to go on with this spread was kind of how the school kind of comes together for each of these games, and they all support the team because you got band there, you got cheer there, you got dance there, you got a spirit section there. So that was the kind of where I decided to take my story. So this is not just a football spread, or this would be very confusing to have this much stuff on it. And this one we're looking for. It's actually not my first picture. Nope. Okay, sorry, hold on 1 second, guys. I'll find it, and you can find it after me. It is here. Okay, so I wanted a student section picture. I picked this one. And you'll notice that this needs a little bit of TLC. I would normally go in and edit this photo in Photoshop, which I'll show you how to get to that from here. It's going to be, if you click it and control click it, we get in here, we can go to edit with Adobe Photoshop. So it'll let you go in, make edits, and it'll automatically apply them to the image, which I will go over with you in probably the next video. All right, so this is all my, oh no, just kidding, I have one more. Okay, this guy right here needs one, and then we're done. All right, we're gonna put in this one of the dancers. So once again, just kind of getting that idea of everybody's here to support the team. You know, this is school spirit. So I got my dancer, and I'm gonna want to cut off her limbs, so I get her here. I'm not a huge fan of having people centered all the time. We're doing that a lot this spread, but I mean, you can see up here we got a rule of thirds here. So when I'm working with one folder of images. Normally you would be working with several folders of images. So just keep that in mind while you guys are doing this. All right, I'm going to stop us here. I'm going to make another video that will get us to get the rest of the spread together. But for now, you guys should have learned Command D to insert photos, holding down the Alt key to drag and drop, and Command plus or minus to zoom in and out. We also learned a little bit about folios and how to edit them. So that's a recap, and I will see you next video.